Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we're doing a video, another tier list talking about trap decks. This isn't as much going to be a super heavy, super stern tier list video as much as it's going to be just a discussion about trap decks in general, because I do think they're interesting. I do think it's kind of I do think they're just an interesting topic. We've seen trap decks actually be okay over the last couple of years. We've seen stuff like Eldritch kind of pop off. We've seen at times trap tricks perform well. Subterrors back in toss format. Dinomorphia more recently. Stuff like that. The Altergeist just made top 4 at European Nationals. So some of these decks can perform for sure. So we're just going to talk about that today. I'm going to throw them into tiers here, but more so just an overall discussion about them individually, because there's not a ton. I came up with 16 trap decks here, and I'm going to be honest, I could probably eliminate half of these from even being in contention for this list, just because it's stuff like decks that aren't even really trap decks or really even play that many of their own traps. They're just an engine that sometimes the better way to play the deck is with a heavy trap variant, and you'll see that as we get through it. But yeah, so starting off here, looking at our tiers, we have Almost Good. This is probably the best trap decks we have to offer at the time, at the moment, which is maybe at best a tier 2 deck, but probably just a high-end rogue deck at best. We don't really have anything trap relevant in the high level meta right now. Rogue, if you squint, is the next tier, okay. Still would love to see new support, but just still not enough to even probably really compete on a high level. And then Sweet Bungus No is just god awful. It's not going to work. Starting out with Pacifists, it's got to be Sweet Bungus No. I like this deck. I think you can cheat wins, and I think you can beat some meta decks here and there, but I don't think it's going to be able to do it nearly consistently enough. I think that's the biggest problem for the deck. You're so reliant on your field spell that if your opponent has a way to keep that field spell off the field, and people are scared of mine right now, so everybody's just playing outs to mine in their main and extra outs in their side and stuff, so they don't just lose to anything matchup-wise like that. So this deck definitely struggles with that. Subterror. I'd put Subterror Rogue if you squint. Not Almost Good, but it's not Sweet Bungus No. I think you could top a locals with this, win a locals with this even on a good weekend. Yeah, I just don't think it's there. I've been clamoring for Subterrors to get support. Nothing crazy, but it just feels like the deck is just so basic, so straightforward with the engine. I would love to see them kind of delve out and actually expand the engine in the way the deck can play, and allow it to do more than just go oh, City for Guru, Set Guru, Flip Guru, Search Fiendus, pass, with a 4 back row, right? And then you just protect your back row with your Omni Negate you searched. That's really all the deck is doing right now, and I'd like to see the engine kind of be able to do a little bit more. Next up is Trap Tricks. I'm going to put Trap Tricks also in Rogue if you squint. I don't think it's as bad as Sweet Bungus No, but the good thing here is that I'm actually going to move this up to Almost Good now that I think about it, because we now have confirmation of a Trap Trick structure deck. So maybe right this second, Trap Tricks aren't this level, but we're getting a whole structure deck, which is going to be somewhere between probably 5 and 8 new cards for the deck. The deck is already Rogue if you squint. I think that's enough where they need so little to actually be one of the best trap decks in the game, if not better. Next up is Unchained. Unchained I would probably put, I think I'd put in Rogue if you squint. And here's the thing. I think Unchained as a whole could perform at Almost Good level at times. The problem is, I think the best way to play Unchained is more of a mid-range strategy with the adventure engine. Not even necessarily the trap variant being the best variant right now. There have been times where it is, but right now it's more Rogue if you squint. They do have trap cards in their deck, but most of their monsters seem more geared towards playing second, and facilitating that. So that's why I kind of get iffy sometimes. I know going second strategies aren't always the best in Yu-Gi-Oh, but it happens. Look at this hair. This hair's going crazy. Okay. Moving on to Satellar Knights. Satellar Knights are hard, Sweet Bungus No. This is hard down here. I honestly threw this on here because I just wanted to scream to the heavens. Konami, Photon Hypernova. It even sounds like a set where Tellar Knight support would be clean in. Somebody was telling me the other day that they remember that this was one of the archetypes that I think was in the vote for structure deck at times. Maybe that was when they were doing the Ice Barrier vote or something else. Maybe another vote. I can't remember which one exactly, because they did one for the Ice Barrier structure deck. They also did one for, I think, the Shadal structure deck. So I think it was in one of those votes, which means Konami must have some plan for support when they put archetypes in there. I don't know if they develop it afterwards or whatever, but like some idea, right? So come on. Photon Hypernova is like the perfect named set. It like fits so perfectly with the theme of the set. Come on. They do technically have a trap card. That's enough. Next up is Lair. I think Rogue, if you squint, is good for Lair. We'll see where they end up on the next when Darkwing Blast comes out, because they get a little bit of assistance from like the new Labyrinth monster that's like really strong. The Ties of the Brethren build gets better. The new Fiend Link 2, the news reporter allowing you to reborn any Fiend is crazy. That means that any tour guide plus any card in hand gets you to any trap in your deck plus Lilith with like still like its effects on field. Just really cool. That's really solid value off of 1.5 cards. That definitely helps the consistency for the deck. But for now, it's Rogue if you squint. I don't even know if it'll go up to almost good, but it does get better and smooth out some of the rough edges that Lair's always had. Next up is Labyrinth, and I think Labyrinth is almost good. Is it crazy? No, but I do think it's one of the better trap decks in the game. Just came out literally like today officially in the TCG. I'm really excited for this one. I think this deck rotates resources like crazy, but it's like the exact kind of deck you want. We've seen like with Eldritch kind of like starting that theme of a central trap card like Scarlet Sanguine that just summons your main guy out of the deck. This deck has its own card just like that, summoning any of your Labyrinth monsters straight out of the deck. None of them are interruptions. That's the only downside to me at this moment in time, is like when you look at something like Dinomorphia, which can like just one of their trap cards gets you to like Rexsturm, which is like an insane win condition. This deck needs other cards to pair with your one trap, so you don't get quite as much disruption for your opponent off of your trap card, like the engine itself, but paired with other trap cards actually gets really insane. And the plus this deck has over something like Dinomorphia's, this deck has so much recursion, it's crazy. You literally like start steamrolling crazy amounts of advantage and the duel's just over when the deck gets going, which whereas Dinomorphia like doesn't necessarily run away with advantage at times. So you kind of have that trade-off. Next up is Altergeist. I'm moving Altergeist and almost good. I mean, I don't think I have to say much more than they just got top 4 at European Nationals. I know it's on the back of Mystic Mine. I know it's probably not performing that well without that, but I still think this engine in general has some really cool tools, whether you're looking at Marionetter, Multi-Faker, or Meluseek, their 3 main monsters, or their trap cards that kind of get you into your engine, trying to like get you to pieces in your engine turn after turn, which is really good. But yeah, it's just good. Like, I don't know. I think they're solid. I think, like, when Mystic Mine goes, they're going to struggle even harder. But, I still think they're cool. Amazement. Amazement is Sweet Bungus now, unfortunately. I think it's the top of Sweet Bungus now. I think it's better than both of these. But, yeah, I think it's Sweet Bungus now. They got the new card. It's fine for them. They definitely needed more playable traps, and they definitely got one more. But that's not enough. It feels like they're missing like 1 or 2 main deck monsters. It feels like they're missing a spell or 2, and then it just feels like they're like at most an okay trap engine when they could be like a whole on deck, and they're just not. So hopefully Konami comes back to them. I love the aesthetic for the archetype, and I like some of the gimmicks they have going on, even if they're not like too keen on like really good interactions competitively. But like still, they're a cool deck. Next up is BA. I think I have to put BA in like Rogue if you squint, maybe, but it's lower end for me. I don't know. These aren't even in particular order. Subterror would definitely be at the top though here. Yeah, this is again one of those decks where you actually don't. Burning Abyss isn't going to be playing any of their own traps in the trap variant, but you just kind of play a ton of traps because all of the BAs float when they're sent to grave generically. I think the biggest problem though for BA at this point is just that they don't really. The way they try to play is like kind of awkward. You like want to see 2 BA names plus like 3 trap cards, and that's something you want to see in like every single hand. But that's kind of weird because how do you balance that? You play the right numbers that you most of the time see enough monsters, but sometimes you're going to see 3, sometimes you're going to see 4 monsters, and then you're kind of just not seeing enough traps and not seeing enough interruption at that point. It can just be weird. They do have the loop, which is cool when you get that online. I just think this deck's not consistent enough, and that's why I think trap decks like Labyrinth, like Trap Tricks, and all of these guys are just a little bit better because their engine gets them to the traps. Whereas the BA, you kind of just have to hope you open enough the right number of BAs and the right number of traps to go with them. And so it can get a little awkward that way. Cyber Dragons. Cyber Dragons are interesting. I'm going to put them at Rogue if you squint. I think there was a time in the last couple of years where they definitely were like almost good. They were literally the best. Like Trap Cyber Dragon was like the best variant to play for the deck. It still might be. I'm not even 100% sure on that. But we have like the Therian cards now. And there's other ways to like mess around with the deck. So I don't know exactly where they're at. But I like them. I think they're cool. Core just being a 1-card interruption. What I like about Cyber Dragons too is like inherently in certain matchups they just already have a good ability to go second. People are literally considering just siding Cyber Dragon for the Sprite matchup in general because you just summon Cyber Dragon going second without activating any effects. You clear the Elf, then you go ahead and into a 2400 beater, and then you attack into the Toad. If they're not playing dupe, then like you literally are gonna like clear the Toad and the Elf without ever even activating an effect. Took 1 card in hand, didn't take your normal summon. That's insane value as far as like board breaking goes, and that's really solid. So I think inherently they do have some like really nice tools that some trap decks definitely wish they had. But I do think what they lack is like the going first power. When you go first, this is not the kind of trap deck where you go first and your opponent's like, oh crap, he's going to just set 5. He's going to have an insane first turn. You just don't have quite as high a ceiling because this engine is like kind of half and half. It's kind of seems like it's halfway geared towards going second, then it's half geared towards going first. So you got to meet in the middle there and kind of take the lower turn 1 power with like the ability to go second in good matchups. So it is what it is. Next up we have Dinomorphia. I'd still put this in almost good. I know right now it doesn't have like the best matchups all around in the format. But I do still like it. I do still think the engine is quite strong. Again, we talked how it kind of equates to like what Labyrinth does right now. They have like their traps that summon out their boss monsters. Same thing with Labyrinth. Labyrinth has to play their boss monsters in the main, whereas Dinomorphia can summon from the extra, which is obviously a bonus. They summon in a legit game-winning boss monster, whereas Labyrinth kind of needs to see other trap cards to kind of supplement their engine. But obviously it's pluses and minuses. I think they're like somewhat close, but I do think Dinomorphia just has a tough matchup right now. So like maybe Labyrinth is arguably better just because it doesn't necessarily have the exact same weaknesses that Dinomorphia specifically is going through. But I think they're still good. And Labyrinth also, like we only have the 1 card from Darkwing Blast. We should hopefully be getting another wave of support either in Photon Hypernova or the next core set. So they could even get better, right? So we'll keep an eye on that. Dragon Maid. Dragon Maid's really interesting. I just haven't seen them anywhere. And so honestly, because I haven't seen them anywhere, I'm going to put them in Rogue if you squint. We've seen Dragon Link perform and all that stuff, but Dragon Maids just can't get it done. I think they strive in formats that are slower and allow them to kind of get their resources rotating and going, because once you start looping their cards every turn, they start going crazy with advantage, and I think that's where they want to be. I just don't think we're really in a place for that in Yu-Gi-Oh! At the moment. So yeah, kind of just Rogue if you squint for now. We'll see. They definitely have some good cards. They're just hella slow. Eldritch is definitely like, it's definitely top tier for sure, almost good. These aren't in order up here, by the way, but yeah, Eldritch might be the single best trap deck in the game still, just because of how like flexible it is. You can play other engines in it. You can play a pure variant with just like hella floodgates and hella crazy trap cards that just help you go second, because you can and will just set 5 with this deck all the time, and that does break boards at times. So yeah, I think Eldritch is still just the most free-form, flexible trap deck you can play. Still really good. Has its weaknesses, but it is what it is. You know, it gets the job done. Paleozoic's really interesting. I'm actually going to put them in almost good. I know you wouldn't have expected that, because I think if you asked last format, you would say Rogue if you squint, like at most, maybe even Sweet Bungus no. But now I think they're actually like really interesting, especially if you look at a variant where it's like Sprite, Frog, Paleozoic, where it's like 20 trap cards, and then the Sprite engine, and then like the Frog engine. That way you have like the monsters that can help you get to some stuff turn 1, as well as potentially play a little bit going second. And then you still have the backbone of the trap cards, where even if you do get stopped on your actual like monster plays and like actually going through turn 1 plays, you still can set multiple back rows, still have interruption that way, as well as the fact that the Paleozoic cards are going to rotate into more level 2 bodies that can get you into more Toads down the line, into more Elves down the line, and just continue to grind and go off. So I quite like it. Also, inherent Mystic Mine outs with Olenoids and Dynamiscus, really cool. Canada is pretty solid in the format, I believe. So yeah, I like it. I think they're pretty cool. They're really interesting. I kind of want to mess around with them. I just don't have Splite Blues. So I have 1 blue. I don't have 3. So it's kind of hard for me to do that. And it's so expensive right now. So whatever. But very interesting deck. I think right now it's almost good. We'll see how long it holds on. I think it's an interesting build. It's not the best build of Sprite. You could obviously just be playing like the more mid-range combo build for them and obviously be better. But if you want to play a fun build, this is, you know, pretty cool. And the last one here is Machina. Again, another deck that like isn't really a trap deck. It's just a deck that if you played a pure version, you could obviously throw in a bunch of traps, kind of go from there. We saw this at the end of last year and a little bit into the beginning of this year. It's an interesting deck. I just don't think it has quite enough going on with all the engines going on right now. Just doesn't give you enough payoff quite yet. It's a cool like grindy deck that can kind of like just go turn after turn and still like be able to threaten your opponent with citadels that are coming back, with fortresses that are coming back and Ruin Force, right? But at the end of the day, the engine's just not doing enough to threaten your opponent by itself. So there we go. There's our tier list. Trap decks are cool. I do enjoy them. I enjoy that they're a little bit slower. These up top are like really cool to me. Very, very curious to see where they go with Labyrinth as far as following up on their support. The Trap Trick structure deck, huge. And other than that, like, you know, I'm a big fan of Dinomorphia. That's mostly it. Those are my 3 like trap decks that I love. I also love Subterrors, but they need help and they don't have any confirmed support. So until they actually get like legit support, I probably won't be visiting them again. Although they were the first deck I ever played like on a true competitive level in TOS format. Just had to dodge that Sky Striker matchup for sure. But yeah, really, really cool. Guys, let me know in the comment section down below your favorite trap decks. And how good you think they are, what you think can compete right now. I'm going to try and build Labyrinth and see how good I can really make it for the current format. See if I can actually make it playable and able to compete. To probably take it to my locals a couple of times and see what I can get done there. But really curious to see. We'll see. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. But I'm out of here. I've rambled enough in front of you here. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel for more stuff from me down the line. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.